Tract Toric 25 by 50. Of all the scopes that I've reviewed lately, I think this scope got mentioned the most and reviewed the least. Right, I've done a ton of reviews since I got this one, and I never quite got around to doing a full review on the Toric. So today is the day when I'm going to rectify that. This is an interesting design. Interesting design. And of all the scopes I've had here lately, I've probably spent more time studying through this and then almost everything else for a simple reason. When I train, I do a lot of training here. We have these barricades and all sorts of other things, other props you don't see a little further behind me. And when I come here to practice, like I started shooting Arrow Hunter when I practice before a match, I will fire 20, best case 40 rounds with my match gun, 08 or 6.5 Creed, and a lot more than that with this is my Tico T1X in an XLR chassis. This is the gun I do the bulk of the training with. Today was particularly frustrating since I fired about 80 shots with it, about half of them support side left-handed. That's not my strongest shooting discipline, so it is spectacularly frustrating, but I did. This Tract 25 by 50 is genuinely a nice scope. It'll work well for a lot of different applications, but for me, I had it on a couple of different guns here and there, on an accurate semi-auto and a few others, and then it popped onto the rimfire and just found its home here. And one of the reasons is that I've got about 800 yards in this range. 790 is the furthest plate, and I really like to shoot 22s fairly far out. And if you are going to do ELR of any sort, whether the rimfire or centerfire, this scope should be on the top of your list. The amount of adjustment it offers you is just it's huge. And I've used almost all of it. Image quality, when you dial that much, degrades. It degrades in all scopes, it degrades in this. This basic 4-25 by 50 design by Light Optics works, has been around for a little while. Tracts is one of the variants. There's several out there. In terms of image quality, they're all broadly comparable. I've seen several of a sample ratio, something this particular is about mid-pack. So the Revic version of this scope that I've seen is in the 30mm tube, was a little bit better optically. Several others that I've seen are very, very close. It's very, very similar to the Zeiss S3 version of the scope, except this one is less expensive. It's about $1,600 range. I have had exactly zero problems with this thing. Everything tracked, nothing broke. The scope's easy to get behind. The reticle is the same tracked 3 reticle that I've had in a 4.5 to 30 by 50 for a little while. The reticle is illuminated. It maintains, I have this disagreement with the guys from Tract. They like to illuminate the whole tree. I'm not real big on that. I prefer just to have a little bit less illuminated. So if you are looking for a reticle that will be optimal for low light hunting, this is not it. For precision shooting, thinking a variety of other things, and it'll work well. And the way they illuminate it, the illumination is actually relatively bright, even on this fairly bright day. That's what I was just checking. There are 10 illumination levels, and on 10, I can see the illumination very, very nicely. So that's kind of a convenient thing. The tree reticle itself was a perfectly normal, perfectly modern 0.2 milliradian based design. It's been talked about quite a bit. Tract does a very clever thing. They don't change it. If it works, don't change it. But if you are going to be hunting with this scope, they do have an option, the Eagleman reticle, that's designed to dial elevation, hold for wind. An Eagleman reticle is a much better option if you're going to hunt that doesn't have a tree. It's a mil hash reticle with good visibility across magnification range. Let's see. Beyond that, it's just a nice design. As far as Japanese scopes go, as far as different variants of this basic 4-25, 5-25 by 50 Light Optics Works design go, this is the least expensive. And if I was spending my own money, this would probably be the one I get. The one downside, the scope is relatively heavy. It's 38 ounces, 37, something like that. A 34 millimeter tube, large beefy turrets. It's the same tall pop-up turrets that Tract has. People complain that they're very tall. Okay, for hunting it is a little bit on the tall side, but visibility is very good. The locking is very positive. Windage also locks. I've spent very little amount of time dialing windage, but I've spent a lot of time dialing the elevation turret, and it has worked flawlessly for my purposes. I did test the tracking fairly far out to the edges, and once you get past about 12 minutes from zero, remember I have a slope bias mount there. Once you get about 20 milliradian away from zero, you became about 1% error, which is really very good. So most Japanese OEMs, etc., unless you pay them lots of extra money, will want to keep the dialing down to less than 2%. So 1% on only toward the edges is very good. And another thing that I found is that it was extremely repeatable. Now, mind you, if you start trying to test for this, it's not so straightforward by itself. As you dial a lot of elevation, you do have to readjust the sight focus, right? So the way the optical system works, if you're that far off center, your focus position changes a little bit. So as you exercise at huge elevation range, you need to dial. Well, that's pretty much that. That is easily my favorite extended range rimfire scope I've seen to date. I've used it on the Subsonic 8.6 with good results. Never skipped a beat. The scope is easy to get behind. Eye box is quite forgiving. Chromatic aberration, you'll find some at the edges if you're looking for it. If you're not looking for it, probably not so much. And even then, to see chromatic aberration, you will need a day pretty much like this. And you need to be looking at the edges of the plates. You need pretty decent atmospheric conditions. The way things are here right now, I'm up at altitude. It's not warm and the wind is blowing, but the sun is harsh. So there are some interesting, unusual mirage currents happening over there, and they screw things up to the point where you don't know what's chromatic aberration, what's not chromatic aberration, etc. The scope does decently with mirage. Depth of field is very respectable. The design does so quite well, but it's not world beating. Still, in this price range, with the specs, I don't think you're going to easily find something with the budget depth of field. It's not that I can easily. That's that. That's Tract Toric 4-25 by 50. Again, in the $1,500 range, probably one of my favorite Japanese scopes out there. And the only real downside for my use, if I would like to think of it as a crossover scope, but it's a little bit too heavy for that. If there's anything I would change, I would see if I could trim the weight a little bit and illuminate a little bit less of the reticle. Short of that, given what it costs, I really I don't have anything to complain about. Thank you all. Have any questions? You know where to find me. www.darklordofoptics.com.